Hello guys, I am one of the programmers for Robot in 2 Days, and I would like to show you guys how we program the red team robot. So I would assume that you guys already know how to wire the robot and that you guys already have FTC App Master. What I'm saying that is so you guys already have Android Studio set up. And if not, actually, so I just watched the this video a few days ago, or actually this whole playlist I watched it, and it really helped me a lot learning how to program in Android Studio and all the things that we need to learn to write a TeleOp program. And yeah, this is CHS FTC Robotics, and I really want to give them a thumbs up because I actually learned a lot from them. So if you guys don't know how to do it yet, or you guys are lost where to start, I would recommend this playlist. And this is gonna be my first time actually programming in Android Studio, so please bear with me. Alright, so we start with basically opening up Android Studio. And when you open up Android Studio, typically it opens the last project, and for me that should be FTC App Master, and as you can see here. And basically you should already know from watching the video how to set up FTC App Master and how to download it. It's really good from the GitHub. So from here, we go to FTC Robot Controller, you go to Java, and then OP modes. So OP modes house all of the TeleOp files. So this is all the presets right here. So from here, we're gonna go ahead and make a new TeleOp file. We're gonna call it red TeleOp. And every time you make a new TeleOp file, you actually have to go to this file, FTC op mode register, and from here, as it states right here, um, add your OP mode to the list to enable it. Basically, FTC output register, you have to put all your TeleOp file that you make, and I believe that's the same thing for autonomous. You have to put it here on this Java file. If not, then the robot controller won't see it. So I'm gonna go ahead and just copy this one, and as you can see, this is just the file name of the TeleOp. So for me, it's gonna be red TeleOp, and you also have to change the red TeleOp. Change it to red TeleOp type class. So once you do that, you can go ahead and close FTC up mode register.java once you finish. Just always make sure that the red TeleOp is, well, actually, in any case with programming, if you want to make sure you do it exactly, just because if you do it like this, if you can see, it's already going to show me an error right there that you can't see the file. So always make sure that you type it as exactly as what it's supposed to be. As you can see right here, I believe green means a string, so this one I can do like blah 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 blah, and it would still be fine because that's just a string. So this is what actually shows on the robot controller itself, but just to be standard, we'll do red TeleOp. So once you do that, you can just close FTC off mode register. Alright, so now we're gonna go ahead and open up K9 TeleOp, and from here I'll show you guys basically the general structure for both TeleOp and autonomous file for FTC. So to make sure that you actually are under OP modes, that you created your file under OP modes, make sure, so check with the package first, make sure you're in OP modes. So right now we have it at FTC robot controller.op mode, just how K9 TeleOp is at. That's one way of checking that you're under OP modes right here. So after that, you see K9 TeleOp is using importing this file OP mode, DC motor, servo, and range. From there, we're gonna see public class K9 TeleOp extends OP mode class, because it is an OP mode, so it extends OP mode. Right here, this is just all declaration of values and etc, etc. I'll explain it more, but right now I'm just going through it so you can give you guys a slide view. So public K9 TeleOp, this is just a blank constructor if you guys are familiar with Java. So what's important to note here is there's three here, and out of those three you have two, which is init and loop. I believe init stands for initialize. These are the two that you're going to be using the most, especially for TeleOp and autonomous. So we'll go ahead and actually open up public void initialize, and from here you can see, if you guys are familiar with robot C, this is similar to motors and sensor setup, where you basically set up all your motors, put on all the names for it, like right motor, left motor, etc, etc, and basically reversing the motors if you need to. So like the comments that they put over here, use the hardware map. So this is pretty important because basically if you name your motor different on the configuration file on the robot controller, when it scanned it and when you set it up, you need to make sure that you get, or you have to be exact when this looks for it, and it's going to give you an error if you have a typo or it's not if you cannot find the motor. So right here you also have two servos, and basically if you guys are also familiar with the initialize robot method, this is basically the same thing right here. It's setting up the servos to be on a specific position when you start your TeleOp program. So that's initialize, public void initialize. This is basically again like motors and sensor setup, and also when you want some servos to be in a specific position. That's what you typically use it for. So now we'll go ahead and go to loop. Right now this is where most of your stuff is going to be at, especially for TeleOp. Because basically, so for loop, it's like a while loop. If you guys know in Robot C, this is where you basically set up all your gamepad or your joysticks. This is where you basically get all your inputs and you put it on your, you save it. So like right here, it's a throttle direction, right or left. That's where you get basically all your values and store it on these right here. And from here, basically you can see how it's actually set on motor right, motor left, and you can see if statements here. And don't worry if I'm sorry if I'm going too fast, but I'm gonna go and do the same thing in red TeleOp. Right now I'm kind of just going through it to give you some sort of a general view of what we're gonna do. So that's a public void loop. So basically that's when it loops every time. The last one, yeah, the public void stop, you don't really have to mess with it. It's there for a reason. I believe it's to stop the loop or stop the whole file, stop it from running. Now that we have a basic understanding of how K9 TeleOp works, we're going to go apply that now to the red TeleOp. So now we begin by making sure that we're under OP modes. We're under that folder, so you can see we have red TeleOp under OP mode, and making sure that our package is on OP modes. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go put all this import all this statements. Right here it's grayish because it basically means it's unused. So if you can see right here, it says unused import statement. And actually for red TeleOp, we're not going to use servo, so I'm going to go remove that one. Basically all of these are needed so that the TeleOp program actually works. You can see we have OP mode right here, DC motor, and range. Next thing you do is the red TeleOp class has to extend OP mode, just like K9 TeleOp, because it is a part, or it is a part or a type of a, because it is a type of an OP mode. From there, as you can see, this is all for the servos, so we actually don't need any of these. We're gonna go skip right through the declaring DC motors. So we're gonna go and script through. So now we're gonna go ahead and skip through all this servo. So we're gonna go ahead and skip through all this servo, because all of this are for servos right here. We don't need it because Red TeleOp doesn't have servos at the moment. We're gonna go right ahead and skip through DC motors, because so we're gonna go right ahead and skip through the making objects for the DC motor class. So DC motor. So like I said earlier, Red TeleOp doesn't have servos, so we're gonna go skip all this section right here because we don't have servos. We're gonna go right ahead and make objects of DC motor. So we're gonna go there, DC motor, and actually I'm gonna put this right here. So right here, this is the red team inputs and outputs. These are basically the configured file that I made on the robot after I finished wiring it, or after after they finished wiring it. This is basically what I set up in the phone so that we can actually use it. This is the name in the configuration file. Like I said here, use this name when calling the motors plus servos. These are the exact names. I can't use anything else because this is how I named it on the robot, on the robot controller. That means this is the way. This is what they're gonna look for. I'll tell you guys more about that later. But right now, this is just basically showing. Right here we have 1, 2, 3, 8 motors total. So we have 2 for the drivetrain, 1 for the intake, 4 for the lift, and 1 for the tilt motor. So I'll go right ahead and just use the same. And again, this is just the declaring the variables for it. So we need 8 total. We have 1 more. So we got right motor, and then we need 1 for the intake, and then motor 1, motor 1, tilt motor. Okay, so now that we have that set up, so this is for easier troubleshooting, I usually try to make it as organized as possible, even though sometimes I can get really messy with code. But it's always a good idea to put comments, especially it won't your code to fault out. So that's basically all you need for declaring variables. Now we need a blank constructor. So we're just gonna go public red TeleOp, and you don't even have to do anything for that. Alright, so now we're gonna go ahead and start with the method initialized, and make sure you also copy the override with it. So now this is actually a cool part. Real quick, you can actually scroll through it, which is I find fascinating that you can do it like this. We're gonna do something a little faster, copying it back and forth. Now I'm just gonna go ahead and because I used the so this is what you have to make sure of, is you have to make sure. So right here when it says .get left motor, you can see this is a string, and like I said, with strings, it doesn't usually fault out because that's usually for the users. This string right here, if I put an S right there, like left motors accidentally, it's not gonna fault out here in Android Studio. It's gonna go fault out on the phone because in the configuration file I named it left motor, not left motors. Um, Basically that's gonna you have to be careful when you type in on the .get, because you have to make sure you basically it's exactly like it was in the configuration file, left motor, right? So I mean, I already had an issue when I was programming it. Actually, um, I uh, I misspelled intake, embarrassingly. All right, so that's for the drivetrain. Again, and let's make this a little organized. So that's all for initialize method. That's all the declared variables. If you do have a servo, then just like K9 TeleOp, then if you want it to be in a specific position when TeleOp starts, then just like right here, they set up their arm position, their claw position, and point 2. So we're gonna go ahead and close public void initialized, so it makes it a little neater, and go to that same thing for this. So now we're gonna go ahead and copy public void loop. Don't forget override. So from here, we can see just from looking at this, that means they're actually doing arcade. For red team, we decided they're gonna do tank drive, so it's gonna be a little different than this. And we'll go ahead and remove this shenanigans right here. I'm gonna go try to explain as much as we go through. I am new to this, so bear with me when maybe I have the wrong information or I have the wrong guess. So we're gonna do, we're gonna do driver left stick, because it is the left stick, and you can see right here gamepad one dot left stick Y. So that's the Y, which is the vertical, which is the only thing we need for tank drive. Now right stick Y. And then now we're gonna do operator side. So now it's gonna be gamepad 2. And then we don't need this, that's for arcade. So now we're gonna do this. Basically oops. So basically clip, if you guys are familiar with the joysticks, the values that it gives you is from negative 128 to positive 128. What range that clip does is change those values or converts those values from negative 1 to positive 1. That's basically be the new range for it. This helps a lot, especially for the motors. This makes it much easier for the to send power to the motors, so that it's basically standardized that way. So now we're going to do the same thing for scale. I'm sorry if it looks really messy right now. So scale input actually, so that actually scales the joystick. It makes it way nicer when you're controlling the as you can see right here. It makes it smoother for you to control the joystick, when you're driving. So we're gonna go put that in this one. So that's the input. So now it's not red. And make sure you're copying the right stuff. I feel like I'm plagiarizing right now. Okay. Ooh, why is operator left stick? Look at that. I messed up already. Right here. There we go. Much nicer. So you scale all the sticks. Okay. So now we're actually gonna go ahead and send power from the joystick to the motors. Now we're talking about outputs. So we're gonna go driver. Whoops, not the right thing. Getting too excited, I'm sorry. So now we're gonna do left motor and then right motor. Then we're gonna do left stick and then right stick. This method right here, that set power, basically sends or sets the power of the motor. Now we're gonna do operator. So this is where you have to be careful, making sure that the right motors are reversed already, because if not, then they're gonna counteract each other and it's gonna be bad. And just to double check, actually did not reverse them, which is pretty bad. So let me go ahead and do that. So now we're gonna go through the gamepads. For the game, if you press A, they want the intake motor set power to 1. And if you guys remember, that's the range right here. -1 to +1, that's the range for the. Else if gamepad dot y, then it's gonna do the opposite. It's basically spitting out the game pieces. Else so you know that this is in the loop side, so this always refresh along with the code. So this is basically the display on the Android. This is really important, especially for troubleshooting, so you can put all kinds of information here. To basically download the code, you have to plug in your phone and do run FTC robot controller. Every time you have to download a code on the ZTE speed, you have to connect it and basically run FTC robot controller that way. Right now I don't have any phone connected, but this was just a mock-up of how I did the TeleOp for Red Team. And I hope that helped you guys some way on understanding how TeleOp works and how the system is. And if you guys have any more questions, feel free to leave a comment below, or please tell me if there's anything I can improve on, because this is my first time doing it. So thank you so much for staying this long listening to my voice. So Alrighty, I hope you guys have a good season. I know Android Studio looks overwhelming at first, but once you get a hang of it, this is a pretty promising system compared to a robot C. So, good luck programming.